Hello. So, this is my first YouTube video. I have posted a lot of TikToks that I will drop my account in the description. But I do post a lot of TikToks on Bible verses. And one person one day decided to tell me, like, oh, you should make YouTube videos. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that. So, today, my video will not be on Bible verses, but I will be making a video today on my testimony and on how I became Christian and got closer to God. Okay, now a lot of things have happened in my life, but I will not give specific details because it can get personal, but I will tell you my story. So it starts where I always grew up in a Christian household with a Christian family. And we went to church a couple of times, but we haven't done it regularly. My grandparents are Christian. My grandma on my dad's side of the family, you know, him and I and my grandma and stuff went to church, and she actually worked at the church. But, it wasn't frequent, and it was just whenever there was something going on or whenever I could type thing. But it wasn't frequent, and especially since I was young. When I went to church, I didn't really understand it. I just called myself Christian. That's what I grew up in. That is what, that was what my family did. That was what I did. But I didn't understand it fully as I do now. I am 16 now, and now I do understand it more. And I'm going to be a junior. So when I was born, my parents ended up splitting up because of things. And so I never dealt with, like, parents divorcing. They just split up ever since I was little, like when I was a baby. So I was so used to visiting my dad every other weekend. And he lives an hour away from where my mom lives. And I still do that. I still visit every other weekend, and things are good. I just mainly live at my mom's. And when I was at my mom's, whenever my grandparents, like when my grandparents used to not have as many health problems, we would go to church once in a blue moon. Still, it wasn't as frequent, and still I was little. I didn't understand it that much. So growing up, I, call myself a Christian, but I was lukewarm. I didn't understand it. I wasn't fully committed. And so growing up in school, I got bullied very, very badly. And I was also dealing with some family problems, which I'm not gonna say why or what happened, but, especially since my family has a past of, like, having anxiety and having depression and having OCD and stuff like that, I ended up getting it too. And the things that I was going through in the moment made it worse. And at this time in my life, I never used to pray unless I wanted something, or unless I was going through something and I wanted to ask God for something. I would only pray when I needed him. I never prayed to thank him. I never went to church or prayed every single day just for fun because I love him. I just did it when I felt the need that I wanted something, which is super bad. And so growing up with that family problems, they ended up going away. Everything's fine. And it's been a long time since those problems have happened. But during school, the bullying did not stop. The bullying carried on, and I still had PTSD and trauma from family things that have happened. So I had anxiety, I had depression, I had OCD, which isn't really important, but that's just a disorder I had, which can be really annoying. And I also had bipolar disorder too. And I was very suicidal. Now, at this age that I'm talking about, I've always went through bullying ever since I started going to school, ever since a toddler and up. But the time that I started feeling very suicidal, like I didn't want to be here, was 8th grade. Now, during COVID time, I skipped, I skipped 7th grade because of COVID. So nothing happened during then. And then 6th grade and below that, I have dealt with bullying too, but it has never dawned my mind that I want to kill myself, ever. Like, I was sad, and I would cry, and I was depressed, but it never dawned on me to do that. The time, though, that I started dealing with those thoughts was 8th grade, and it just kept growing from there, and I didn't just have suicidal thoughts, I would try to act on it, and I did self-harm. I did, and I did try to commit a few times, and God saved me. He saved me from dying. He knew that I needed to stay, and he knew that I would get better. That is why when I self-harmed or when I tried to commit, I never died. And people still bullied me after that. I never told anyone that I tried doing that stuff, but I did go through a few phases, and I would just wear my hoodie up all the time and everything, and people could kind of tell that I was depressed and could kind of tell that I've done that stuff, they could kind of tell. So they would still bully me for it, and they would be like, oh, you should keep trying, oh, you should cut yourself with these, and everything. And it just kept getting worse and worse, and I heard that high school, 9th grade, would be better, but it was good in the beginning, but after being some friends with people who showed me the wrong path, and I have tried some things once because of peer pressure and stuff. After having those people show me the wrong path, spread rumors, and lead me not towards God, but away from God, high school just kept getting worse and worse. And I lost a bunch of my friends that I've had for years because they fell into the wrong path too, which I pray for them. Every single night, I pray that they get better. And those people who have done me wrong, I don't know what they are doing right now, but I pray whenever it pops into my head, I pray that they will find their way towards God too, like I have. And so eventually, bullying got super bad, and my suicidal thoughts got worse, and my self-harm got worse, and I started not just having suicidal thoughts, not just having depression or anxiety, but I started having panic attacks, and I started having nightmares every single night about even going to school. I would dry heave and almost throw up every morning because I was so nervous to go to school every single day. And it eventually got so bad to where I couldn't even go to class, and I just sat in the counselor's office all day. And what's the point of even going to school if I wasn't even learning, if I couldn't even comprehend learning because of everything that was going on in those moments? And panic attacks were getting bad, suicidal stuff was getting bad, and eventually my mom ended up taking me out of school, and now I'm homeschooled. And it might not be for everyone. Some people like to socialize and some people like to have friends in school, but for me, that didn't matter to me because I didn't have any friends in school. I have one good friend in school who I'm still friends with to this day, and I love them. But other than that, I'd rather hang out with that friend like outside of school like I usually do now, instead of hurt myself more going to school anymore. So I became homeschooled, and it's been working amazing for me. And honestly, you'd think that if anything, that would give me more anxiety and stuff because, like, I can't socialize anymore or anything, and that kind of puts me in a cage. But I experienced school, and now that I'm out of school, and ever since I started getting closer to God, I'm not cocky, but I'm more confident. I'm more confident in myself. I'm more confident to know that I'm meant to be here, and I don't cut myself anymore, and I haven't, hopefully this video doesn't get censored or anything, but I haven't done that stuff anymore for about 2 years now, and I'm gonna be a junior, so yeah, like a year and a half, I'd say. No, because I was homeschooled my whole sophomore year. I started being homeschooled the third try of 9th grade, so I started being homeschooled at the end of 9th grade. So yeah, about like 1.5 to 2 years, I haven't done anything bad, and now I don't see the need to do anything bad because I know that I was put on this earth for a reason, and God knew who I was before I was even born, and he knew that I had a purpose to be here. And so now I don't want to spend eternity away from him, from hurting myself like that. And that wasn't how I got closer to God. So after school, I ended up dating 2 people. Actually, technically 3 people, because I did go through a phase of thinking that I was pansexual. And I went through that phase for a bit, and I ended up dating a girl, and I hope that she's okay now. She was dealing with some stuff too. But dating a girl made me realize that yes, I think girls are gorgeous. I think that they are pretty and stunning. But thinking about my future in the long run made me realize that I can't see myself marrying a girl in the future. And I date to marry, so that is saying a lot. Like, I don't just date to date, I date to marry. And dating that girl made me realize that feels more of like a friendship or a roommate more than a relationship. And I want to have my own kids in the future and my own family, and I just can't see myself making that with a girl. And I might be attracted to girls, like, look-wise, but not even lustfully. Like, I can't imagine, even lust is a sin, but, you know, I can't imagine myself with a girl long-term. At the time, I tried to force myself to think that way, but over time, I realized that I just can't. And I prefer men, and I want to have my own family with a man, because that is how it is supposed to be, a man and woman. So after that phase I went through, after that I dated a guy, and I'm not gonna say that he's toxic, because don't judge the person, judge the sin. He did some very bad things, and I broke it off because he did those bad things, and it didn't lead me in the right direction, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I wanted something more with God, and what he was doing was not filled with that. And I pray sometimes for him because I know that he is still going down the wrong path right now. But I pray that he finds God and gets better, because he grew up in an environment where he couldn't really be God fulfilled, and he couldn't be better, and he grew up acting like that. So that's what he was used to. And yes, he did treat me badly, but every relationship has their bad and good moments, but I am not gonna hold a grudge against that, because it's been a long time, and everyone deserves a chance with God. And what would Jesus do? Jesus would not hold a grudge. So I still pray for him. And after that relationship, since the relationship itself was pretty toxic, I didn't fall in love with him. I liked him, but I didn't fall in love completely. Because it wasn't healthy. And so the relationship that I was in after that was my first love, I believe it is. And again, nothing that I am holding against this person. The relationship was great in the moment, but looking back at it now, and how we talked, or specifically how he acted, wasn't as good as it felt in the moment, and he wasn't as toxic, or wasn't doing as toxic stuff as the previous relationship. So I was like, oh, okay, it can't be that bad, right? Because every relationship goes through fights. But over time, I fell more and more in love with this person, but they were hiding so much from me, and I found out something that made me finally break it off with them. And after breaking it off with them, it made me realize that it was a toxic environment for me, and as much as I loved him, I had to let him go because I wasn't what he wanted. And it took me a long time to stop holding a grudge against him for what he did to me. Took me a long time of barely eating, barely sleeping, just crying every single day for me to finally get better. And I held a grudge against him for so long, but after finding God, it made me realize that we grow and we learn and we grow up. And following God has made me realize that I never understood what forgive and forget, meant. I was like, why do I have to forgive the person who has done me so wrong? But now I finally get it. It doesn't mean that you have to date that person again. It doesn't mean that you have to be friends with that person again. But it means that you have to move on with your life and let them move on with theirs, and stop holding a grudge and at least be acquaintances with them, because you grow. And that man who I love so dearly in the moment, and who did me so wrong, in the future, he will have his own family and his own wife, and I will have my own husband and my own family. And that won't matter then. I'm over it now, and I decided that I finally understand what forgiving truly means, is that God does not want you to dwell on that person, and does not want you to hold back yourself or hold back that person from moving on, because things happen. But Jesus and God is so forgiving. We should be too, because everyone has their own struggles, that not everyone might know about, but that doesn't mean that we should judge and hold a grudge against those people. And so after that breakup, and after a few months of dwelling on it and being heartbroken, I was scrolling on TikTok, and I was just laying in my bed, numb, depressed, and a TikTok video came across my For You page, kind of like the Bible videos that I make on TikTok. And it was a TikTok of this girl describing everything that I was going through in that moment. It's like she was reading me. And I just felt so touched, and I ended up crying, and I realized that all I needed in all of my low moments during family bullying breakups, all that I needed was God. And I realized that my whole life I've pushed him away, and I was a lukewarm Christian. And I realized that I may have called myself Christian, but I didn't act like it. And that video, honestly, was a sign from God, and it made me realize that I needed to get closer to him. So after that, I started reading my Bible. I ended up downloading the Bible app, and in the meantime, when I didn't have a Bible, so then I bought a Bible and everything, and I still read my Bible app too all the time, just for extra knowledge. And I ended up praying every single night, and I ended up talking to one of my good friends that I met in dance, because I know that she is a good Christian. She leads me towards such good paths, and I love her so much. And I've been in dance for years, but she moved, and she came to our dance studio, and she was new. That would have been, last year would have been her first year in dance, and I knew that she was Christian, so I ended up talking to her, and I ended up starting to go to church with her and her family, and now I go every Sunday, except for the Sundays that I'm at my dad's, because he lives far away from the church, an hour away, so I can't do that, because legally by core I still have to go every other weekend. But the weekends that I am at my mom's, I go to church with her and her family, and recently I talked my mom into going with me too. And one of my good childhood friends ever since I was in pre-K, I'm talking her into going too, because again, what would Jesus do? They say don't judge. And my childhood friend from pre-K, she has fallen into some bad paths, and she doesn't believe in God or anything, but I want her to repent, and I'm trying to lead her towards that. So yeah, hopefully she comes with me. Eventually I'm gonna try to get her too. But God hit me with that TikTok, honestly, in a really low point in my life when I needed someone who understood everything and made me feel less alone. Now, my family was here for me, but they've already told me all that I can hear. But even if people tell you the best advice ever, the best thing to heal is God. And I think that TikTok really helped lead me more towards God completely. And eventually this year, I ended up going to church camp with my sister, my stepsister, and it was amazing. And even though I was close to God, it just led me closer and closer and closer, because, you know, even though you can be Christian, there is always opportunity to get closer and closer to God. And at this point in my life, I, am getting older and deciding kind of what I want to do with my life because I'm going to be a junior. And I've always wanted to do culinary, but then I'm like, but I'm not really amazed by it. Like, I like cooking and stuff, but it doesn't make me like, woo, type thing. I love dance. I've been in dance since I was 7 years old. But there's not many career choices in dance unless you own a studio and stuff, but I didn't want to do that. And I like to read, but sometimes I get sick of it, and I wanted to be an author, but after trying to write a book, I realized it's more difficult than I thought, and that's not what I wanted. But going to church camp and seeing people speak on stage as a youth minister, I realized that was what I want to do with my life, because at this point in my life, after seeing that TikTok video, was when I started making TikTok videos like that. And I was shy at first, but I kept getting more and more comfortable with it, like a normal thing. And I'm probably gonna make one right after this video. But being a youth minister is just like what I do. It's talking about God, especially to the young. And I can lead people who were down and depressed like me, like I was. And I can lead them more towards God. And that is exactly what I want to do with my life. So now I finally figured that out, and I know where I'm gonna go to college, and they have all of the studies that I need. And the place that I'm gonna go to college in is such a Christian city, but it's built like a town. Like, it's so small and it's so cozy and amazing, and they have so much churches, and they have a bunch of like old looking places like windmills and stuff. I just think that it's so cute and so cozy and beautiful, and I love the college, and so I plan on going there. And I'm gonna test out for my GED, and since I am homeschooled and I can't get a diploma, so going to church camp did not just make me closer to God also, but it made me realize what I want to do with my life and what my calling was, and what God wants me to do with my life is spread the gospel. And so going to church camp also made me realize that after church camp and everything, when I ended up spending the night and staying the night at one of my friends' houses, the girl who I go to church with, who I met at dance, I was staying the night at her house, and this girl, she dresses modest and everything too, and I had something hit me too that made me realize that I still, even though I was Christian and wasn't lukewarm anymore and I put my all into him, I still could do better. So I actually worked on cleaning out all of my drawers and getting rid of specifically the non-modest clothes. And now I only have modest clothing, and I might buy more. But I got rid of all the belly shirts. I got rid of all the short shorts, and I got rid of the super like cleavage showing shirts and all of that. I got and all of the holy jeans and stuff. I got rid of that. And then I also stopped listening to bad music, like rap and things with sexual stuff in it and lustful stuff in it. And I listen to Christian music